Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Mensa. Always excited when I have my guest, Charlie Pierce, on. We've been doing, for the last several years, a series of Checkpoint Charlies with a man I consider to be the most astute political writer in the country. He writes for Esquire.com. He's a Twitter king. He's a sports nut. He's a very funny guy, and I call him my psychological morphine drip for all things political, and we've got it for the whole show tonight. Mr. Pierce, how are you tonight?
How are you? And congratulations on the book, my man.
Thank you. It's fun.
Those reviews are sweet.
I'm actually selling some, which is kind of a nice
Always good
to put a little money back in the bank account.
And it looks like from what I gather on social media, that spring has come to Duluth.
Yeah. Oh, yes. It's beautiful. In fact, I was going to ask you, how's the weather out in Massachusetts? Where
it's beautiful today. It's been kind of up and down the last month or so. We get it's been more cloudy actually than rainy, which is kind of strange. But I think we've turned the corner. They're playing at Fenway, so all's right with the world. Except
we got up to there you go. We got up to 70 yesterday. I'm a little worried about it, Charlie, because I'm wondering if it's not nuclear warming.
Well, don't look a gift high pressure area in the mouth. I mean,
did you put yourself through the torture watching the Tucker Carlson Trump interview?
No.
Yeah.
Neither one of them has anything interesting to say to me.
No. Although I was reading in Politico this morning, and Jack Schaefer, who I usually enjoy reading, suggested, and I don't think he was kidding, sending Tucker Carlson over to Russia to get the Wall Street Journal reporter out.
Hey, I'd be in favor of anybody going over there to get that poor guy out. I mean, they want to send Tucker, that's fine. And you know what? If they're saving money over in Russia, they can just send them a one-way ticket.
Now that I agree with. So, Charlie, I was hesitant to set up this interview because it's been such a slow couple of weeks in national politics.
It's been a very red hot week in the national politics that are taking place in America's courtrooms, however.
It's been crazy. I say that facetiously, of course. I put a list of things to talk about. I guess at the top of the list when I was doing my research, Jim Jordan. Let's talk about the committee. He's going to Manhattan to cause some trouble. What exactly is going on there?
It's he's a burlesque of a congressman on his best day. He's going to go to New York and get his ass kicked. I mean, Alvin Bragg, who everybody thought was going too soft on the former president, has shown that at least in defense of his own investigation, he's a real bear. I mean, him suing Jordan is, that's a crank up the Enola Gay moment. I mean, you're suing a congressional oversight chairman for interfering and implying that he's obstructing justice. Fabulous.
Well, what confuses me is Jordan's trying to call this Mark Pomerantz, who resigned because a couple of years ago he didn't think Bragg was moving aggressively enough. They're calling him on. Well, he wrote a book that said Trump is guilty, all the way to the Supreme Court on this thing.
Yeah, I mean, that one floored me when I read it. And, I mean, the only thing I can think of is that some staffer, some 20-year-old graduate of Bob Jones University, noticed that Pomerantz quit in anger, over something Bragg did, and just threw it in there without reading what Pomerantz had actually said in his resignation letter and in his book.
No, that is, I loved it, but I was like going, geez, somebody should have done a little more research on this dude.
Oh my God! Tell me about it. I mean, I was stunned when I saw that. And Pomerantz probably didn't want to do it anyway, but still, I mean, wow.
Well, and then I was reading another thing. So Jordan wants to go to Manhattan and bring up how bad the crime is. The crime's actually down. It's actually worse. It's actually worse in Jim Jordan's home state than it is in New York City.
Yeah, I mean, violent crime is a problem. Violent crime has been a problem forever, going back to Cain and Abel. And Jim Jordan discovering that some of it occurs in New York while not paying attention to anything that's happening in Ohio is, par for his course.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how that rolls out. Say, our conversations are, always go all over the board, which I enjoy about it. But the one thing I was thinking about when I was lining you up to speak tonight was who, you are one of the funniest political writers out there. I mean, you're a very serious writer, but you're really funny. And I think when I first came on to you, you referred to Paul Ryan from Wisconsin as the doe-eyed granny starver. Is that
zombie-eyed granny starver?
Yeah. So I got to ask you, Charlie, what are your comedic influences? Who have you loved over the years in terms of comedy?
Oh boy, the list may be too long. I think the funniest person I've ever encountered in print or live is Richard Pryor. I think he's the gold standard for stand-up.
I missed it.
For political satire, hell, I go all the way back to Mr. Dooley, who only appeared done in Chicago. A lot of the so-called new journalists, Hunter Thompson, Tom Wolfe. The ability to, infuse your anger and do it in such a way to make people laugh. I mean, I'm all over the place. Jonathan Swift, for sure. Oh God, no. Where else?
How about more? I was when I was young.
And I mean, to bring it all back home, as we say, Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
One of the most underrated things about Bob Dylan and his life and career is that a lot of his stuff is really funny.
Yeah.
Desolation Row is hilarious. I mean, it really is. And I have heard older bootlegs where he would play that and he would get the same reaction from the audience that Arlo Guthrie did with Alice's Restaurant.
Yeah. No, he's and it's so much of it. With Dylan harkens back to it's Borscht Belt comedy.
Right, and he's casting himself in a tradition that includes Mark Twain among other people. So it's probably no surprise. James Thurber knocks me out. Frank O'Connor, Sean O'Phelan from Ireland. Flann O'Brien is probably my primary influence, but I don't have the mind to write like him because nobody ever did and nobody ever will. But he is the last time my attitude towards the language turned, which is basically that if you do it right, you can make the English language do anything you want it to do.
Yeah, interesting. I love that take on it. Have you had the chance to listen to any of the Bob Dylan theme time radio hour shows that he did about 100?
Oh, I was a regular listener. I have they put together a kind of greatest hits package that you can buy with Bob's comment. And Bob was a hell of a disc jockey.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, he really was. I mean, first of all, he really knows his stuff, and second of all, he'd do these wonderful theme shows about whiskey and baseball and Christmas, and pull these songs out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I remember, the first song he played on his baseball show, and everybody in the world thought he was going to do Brown-Eyed Handsome Man by Chuck Berry because it refers to Jackie Robinson. He plays Life is a Ball Game by Sister Winona Carr.
No, he's phenomenal. I remember now that we've got Mother's Day right around the corner of his Mother's Day program. He says something to the effect of, I bought my mother-in-law an electric chair for Mother's Day. but she hasn't plugged it in yet. Yeah, he's well. The thing about Bob, I was following it yesterday. I get a couple of newsletters, and he's doing his whole Rough and Rowdy Ways songs from his latest record. Very few modern artists play their latest record. They always play the hits. And the other night in Japan, he pulls out "Truckin'" by the Grateful Dead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now that's one I wouldn't have expected. I mean, they're a Grateful Dead. I mean, if you pulled out Uncle John's Band, I'd understand completely.
Right.
Or Friends of the Devil or anything. But Truckin' is a little bit. I mean, it's a road song, so I guess it sort of counts in what he does for a living. But that's really amazing. He's playing all the hits. He's playing everybody else's.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is about it. The show, I saw Bob at the Pantages in Hollywood in June last summer, 2 shows, and it's kind of a subdued show. There's a few up-tempo rockers, but it's, a lot of really slower stuff like Rough and Rowdy Ways. But then he pulls out this tune like in the middle of the set, and the band is absolutely smoking. And, it's Bob singing How Bob Sings, which I adore, of course. But it was nice to know the guy coming on the age of 82.
What was he playing again, Paul?
Well, when he was playing Truckin', he was playing
okay. All right.
singing. But what I'm saying is that he's 6 weeks away from his 82nd birthday, and he's rocking as hard as any young punk out there.
Oh man, that's really very funny. Although I'm sure he's singing Truckin', and he gets the lyrics about set up like a bowling pin.
Yeah.
And part of his mind is going, I could have come up with a better metaphor than that. Who are these rookies?
You know what? Let's listen to a little clip of that we can grab. Bob Dylan doing Truckin' the other night in Japan. And then we'll get back on the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metsa, with my guest and buddy, Charlie Pierce. Check this out.
Wall of Power Radio Hour.
Welcome back to the second set of the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metsa. My guest for the whole show tonight on these episodes we call Checkpoint Charlie, Mr. Charlie Pierce. Charlie, so how are the Red Sox going to look this year?
Oh, they're terrible. If they've got a general manager who's had 3 years to get them out of the ditch, and he hasn't been able to do it. I think. I'm disgusted by the fact that they're losing for years. The rap on the Red Sox was they would trade away the young players developing in their farm system for quick fix, win today veterans. Finally, they start developing talent. Mookie Betts, Xander Bogaerts, Andrew Benintendi, all these guys, and they just don't pay them, and they go free agent.
Right.
Losing Mookie Betts was a disgrace. Losing Xander Bogaerts was just an insult, and it was all over money.
Do you get to Fenway much during the summer to see games?
2 or 3 times a year. Prices are a little bit extravagant. I like to go with my daughter. I've been going to baseball games with Molly since she was 8 or 9, and she goes by herself. She will go by herself or with friends now.
Yeah.
Her boyfriend had a cousin who pitches for the Orioles, so she got to go to opening day.
Incredible. Well, it's amazing. Every now and then I'll take in a Twins game at the. Actually, it's a beautiful stadium, Target Stadium. Although it's placed right downtown next to the garbage burner. Whoever thought of that, I don't know. And it's amazing how many women go to games now. A lot of female baseball fans.
Yeah, that's been the case for a while. I wouldn't begin. I wouldn't be. I mean, leaving aside the fact that the effect of Title IX has increased women's participation in sports at every level, including being fans. I wouldn't begin to explain why, but baseball has been a little bit ahead on that. Maybe it's outdoors. It's outdoors. It's the summertime. Both men and women are happy with that. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to see it. Let's talk hockey a little bit now, Charlie. Quinnipiac. Did you follow that much, being from the East Coast?
No, I honest to God, I didn't even know. The Frozen Four got past me completely this year. But Quinnipiac has built the program from the ground up. 35 years ago, they were the Connecticut College of Commerce. And now they're Quinnipiac University, NCAA hockey championships.
Yeah. Well, and captained by my cousin, captained by my cousin's son, Zach Metza.
Really?
Yep. That was my
Good
cousin.
for Zach.
Tommy. Yep. Tommy passed away, unfortunately, about a year and a half ago. But he was a hockey player. He played for the Roosevelt High School, my high school, Blue Devils. Tommy was about 15 years younger than me. And then went on to play in St. Paul for Hamline University, but raised his kids playing hockey. In fact, I had a picture that I was able to send a young Tom when he was about 10 years old. My dad, business, he sold real estate and insurance. It was called Elder Enterprises because my dad's name was Elder. And I sent him a nice picture of him wearing an Elder Enterprise Pee Wee hockey jersey. But he raised those kids. It was the typical northern Minnesota thing. You don't have to go to the skating rink. You just flood the backyard. And so he raised those kids, and Zach went out. I didn't get to watch the game against Michigan, but I did watch the game against the Gophers, and that was Zach's last game as a senior, and he had captained it. So literally went out on the Mount Everest of the NCAA hockey tournament program. So I was very proud of him as a shirt-tail relative.
Well, not just that, but it gives you an indication of how quickly Quinnipiac built its program.
Yeah.
That it was already reaching into Minnesota to get players.
Well, and then
starting from scratch.
Yeah, basically. And two, I have a little, maybe because I'm superstitious, but I was talking to another buddy who was a big Gophers fan, and he was commiserating. I said, well, I don't think there was any Finns on the Minnesota Gophers team, and there was two on Quinnipiac. I'm not saying that's the secret sauce, but I think if you're going to have a good hockey team, you need a Finlander or two. But that's my opinion.
I'm sorry, Paul. I lost the thread there a minute.
Oh, that's all right. Well, I was just talking about Quinnipiac had two Finlanders on the team. I don't think the Gophers had any. I think a strong hockey team should always include a Finlander or two.
Oh, there's no question.
Yeah.
Plus they're from the happiest place in the world, according to every survey. So.
And there's a word for it, a Finnish word for drinking vodka in your underwear. It's a very popular pastime over there. I read another thing on Finland a couple of weeks ago, and he said the reason why we're so happy, low expectations.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. Although there's a lot of very high achievers in Finland. I'm looking forward to getting over there one of these days. One more hockey thread here.
Oh, I didn't realize you'd never been.
I've never been. And my great-grandfather, John, came from Ilatornio, which is north of Helsinki. And it was funny. The original name, Charlie, was Metsa Vainio. Then, of course, they chopped it off at Ellis Island.
I'm sure there's an I and a J in there somewhere, right?
Yeah, lots of I's. Yeah, lots of balls, soft balls. And I bumped into a Finnish guy who was visiting about 30 years ago. And so I introduced myself. He said, Finn. I go, yeah. I said, I know Metsa means woods or forest. But I said, what? So I asked him, I said, what does mezzovinio mean? And without skipping a beat, he goes, oh, that means lost in the woods.
Really?
Yeah. I haven't been able to track it down because it was such a quick comeback.
So some poor bastard ancestor of yours wound up in Russia. You got to name the whole family.
Well, we kept the Russians off at the border, and the Finns invented the Molotov cocktail.
Good for them. That's an impact on history.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me look at my. Hey, let's switch over now from hockey to Tennessee. The Tennessee Three. How cool are Justin Jones and Justin Pearson? I give Gloria.
I'll tell you what.
Go ahead.
You couldn't have done a worse job of politics than the Republicans in the Tennessee House did by throwing you two guys out.
Yeah.
There was absolutely no upside to that, and you know that essentially created now two national superstars.
Yeah.
And out of, a couple of first term, maybe neither one of these guys was in their job for a month.
Right.
Or I guess they were there for a little bit more than a month. They got sworn in January. But, they were in their first term. They didn't even know where the men's room was in the Capitol.
Right.
And yet, you've given them a chance, A, to prove how smart they are, B, to prove how savvy they are, C, to prove how eloquent they are, and
right.
D, how much smarter they are than you are.
Yeah.
I mean, when they threw them out, they had to know that they were going to go right back to their counties and get reinstated.
Yeah.
And now they're going to have to stand in special elections, which they'll win, with 190 bazillion% of the vote. So what have you accomplished?
Yeah.
If you're the Tennessee Republicans, what have you succeeded?
Well, now
the governor got so scared he even made a head fake towards gun reform.
Yeah, imagine that. You know what I really loved about it? I just loved I love the young, fearless politicians. But Justin Pearson, like you said, both the gentlemen are eloquent, but he talks. It's really in a way he's reminiscent of his cadence of Martin Luther King, and of course.
Well, that's interesting. I was talking to somebody about that the other day. He's a preacher's kid.
Yeah.
So he learned at his father's knee. Those cadences. Those are the cadences of the Southern Church.
Exactly. And it's, I was thinking more about it, and I'm going, well, that's kind of why, it goes back to what, I grew up in a town. We'd occasionally have a black minister come through, somebody who's been in Africa. We actually had a black DJ. He went by the name of Jim Dandy, and he was the one in the 50s that Bob Dylan used to listen to on WHLB, which is the Virginia station, and he came over and met Jim. I never met him, but I had a friend of mine who worked with him, but he had part of that black church cadence when he was speaking on the radio. And when I was listening to Justin Pearson, I was just going back and go, me as a young white kid growing up on the Iron Range, you don't see many black people, but what started to get you interested? It was rock and roll. It was Stevie Wonder. It was really Martin Luther King. It was all that great black R&B and blues. And you start to go, oh, my God, there's a sense of rhythm here that I haven't found in my Scandinavian culture. I don't know if I'm explaining it.
For me, it was growing up in, central Massachusetts. For me, it was Otis Redding, and
Yeah.
it was Little Richard. Little Richard blew my little suburban mind.
Yeah,
How in the name of God did this ever get on my radio?
yeah,
I mean, it was like they tuned in from outer space.
yeah,
And then a lot of it, a lot of my love for old blues, et cetera, came from the English guys who came over and talked about it. I probably would never have heard of Muddy Waters if it wasn't for the Rolling Stones, or Robert Johnson if it wasn't for Eric Clapton.
God,
and once I got there, then that opened the floodgates for me.
Yeah,
but I think that the connection between gospel music and the gospel churches is certainly why that style of public speaking came about.
Yes, absolutely.
Call and response, those wonderful kind of rolling cadences. They're very, very musical.
Well, I'm just glad.
And even Barack Obama adopts them occasionally.
Oh, yeah, Brock had it down. But it's so nice to have a young cat out there with that vibe.
Absolutely. And the great thing about it is, ever since this happened, neither one of them has made a wrong move.
Yeah.
They're not going to waste this incredible opportunity they have. They're also not going to get the Speaker of the House to resign. But why not shoot the moon? When you're on top of your game. I think that these are people that sooner or later I'd be very happy to hand off the baton to those guys.
Most certainly.
Gives me a lot of hope.
We're going to take a break on the Wall of Power Radio Hour and come back for one more big set with Checkpoint Charlie Pierce. Stick around, and thanks for listening.
Gonna tell Aunt Mary about Uncle John. He claimed me as a music buddy and a lot of fun. Oh, baby. Yeah, baby. Woo, baby. Having me some fun tonight. Yeah. Well, no tall Santa sheet. Bill Squeegee guy. Everything that Uncle John need. Oh, baby. Yes, baby. Woo, baby. Having me some fun tonight. Yeah. Well, the song Uncle John with ball head Sally. He saw Mary coming and he jumped back in the alley. Oh, baby. Yes, baby.
Welcome back to the third set of the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Mensa. My guest, the esteemed Mr. Charlie Pierce, on episodes we call Checkpoint Charlie on AM 950. Charlie, I was walking around with the dog yesterday, and we came within 5 inches of breaking the 100-year record for snow here in Duluth, Minnesota. And we got to the end of the street, which is cut off. The street doesn't go any farther. And there was this powerful little river flowing from the top of the hill that will eventually end up in the insalted sea we call Lake Superior. And I was just reading your latest today on Esquire.com, and I want all my listeners out there to check out Mr. Pierce on Esquire.com. Once again, you're one of the few guys that are writing about the water issues in the United States.
This all got cued into me by a friend of mine who works in environmental engineering. When we were sitting around having a beer or two one night, and he said, "You watch, the next world war is going to be over water. It's not going to be over oil." You got people privatizing water. People selling, commodity stock in water.
Yeah.
You've got, between, climate change. The climate change is putting too much water in places that doesn't need it, and none in places that do need it. I did not realize until this week the Colorado River does not reach the Pacific Ocean anymore.
Huh.
It dead ends somewhere in Mexico. And it's a dying thing.
Talk to us about the importance, Charlie, of the Colorado River.
Oh, God, it's the water supply for... First of all, you have to understand that most of the southwest United States is supposed to be desert. Okay, that's the way God, as Billy Preston said, that's the way God planned it. Okay, that was going to be a desert. Now it's massively overpopulated. Everybody has a lawn. Everybody, there's miles and miles of alfalfa, which is one of the most water-hungry plants on the planet, and most of them alfalfa is going to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
It's not being used here. so you've got over farming, you've got overpopulation, and you've got a complete, decades of a complete lack of environmental protection for probably one of the 2 or 3 most vital rivers in the United States. I mean, Los Angeles had to steal water to become Los Angeles. Chinatown came out as a movie in 1974.
Yeah. Yeah, well, truthfully, not only is Duluth one of the prettiest cities in America, I've said for years, I call it the Little San Francisco, but between Lake Superior and the Boundary Waters, we've got at least close to 15% of the world's fresh water, which is why I don't like to broadcast how much I like it up here, because I need to be a little selfish to keep this water for ourselves, damn it.
Well, among other things, we got to keep mining interests out of the boundary waters. That's number one. And I think the folks up there have done a pretty good job of doing that.
Yeah, and Biden just signed, we've got through some of our great progressive legislators here, a 20-year ban on copper sulfide mining. But it blows my mind. I mean, why not ban it forever? When, it's not going to get any better in 20 years.
I was going to say, Biden's a perennial optimist. He thinks the country is going to regain its sanity within the next 20 years.
Yeah.
But, hey, 20 years is better than nothing, and certainly better than that mine. Good Lord.
For sure. Now,
and I think and the Upper Great Lakes, they've got some badass governors now. Your guy, Tony Evers, Gretchen Whitmer.
Yeah.
Why everybody talks about Ron DeSantis as a powerful presidential presence because he's a governor, and they don't talk about Gretchen Whitmer for the same reason. They tried to kidnap her.
Yeah.
And she got reelected, and she brought the state legislature with her. That is badass.
Yeah, no, totally. And now, I was thinking the other day, I go back to 1980, the only 2 states that voted for Walter Mondale was Massachusetts and Minnesota. So
That's 84, not 80. 80 was
84. Excuse me.
80 was only Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's right. That's 76. 80 was maybe it wasn't.
No, I think it was 80.
Was it 80? Okay, yeah. All right. I lounge corrected. Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, my point was it your governor or your attorney general, a woman in Massachusetts, that's making a really strong stand and brought up a bunch of this, the abortion pill? I can't pronounce it exactly.
It's both our governor, Maura Healey, and our attorney general, Andrea Campbell, who have combined to buy up all kinds of mifepristone, and basically told that Connecticut and basically told that Texas punk judge to sell it. And Jay Inslee, by the way, is doing the same thing in Washington.
Yeah.
But no, we are a wonderful, complete matriarchy here in the Bay State now. We're very happy.
Well, we have in Minnesota, the DFL controls the governorship, the Senate, and the House, and we're kicking ass out here. And we also have, because the DFL knows how to manage their pocketbook, we've got $17 billion in the bank.
Who does? The party does or the state does?
The state does.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Let's buy everybody a beer.
Yeah. Well, speaking of beer, that's when I was watching that little river flow down from the hill out to Lake Superior. That's one of the reasons why Duluth has become one of the homebrewing and beer capitals in the United States, because of that great clear water from.
Is that where Grain Belt was born?
Grain Belt wasn't born in Duluth, but they do have. I think Grain Belt was southern Minnesota, but Grain Belt's been around for a hell of a long time, as long as anybody.
Yeah, and of course Hams is from the land of sky blue waters.
Yeah,
which is the first thing a lot of us learned about Minnesota.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. In fact, I think you and I have talked about it because you spent some quality time in Wisconsin going to college. I remember back in about the late 70s, Robert Christgau, the esteemed man who calls himself the Dean of American Rock Criticism, came in to see the Replacements and Husker Du, who are still playing a lot locally, although they had started to play around the country. And he became enamored with Leinenkugel's beer and brought a case back.
Absolutely. Leinenkugel's lager.
Huh?
Leinenkugel's lager, the straight lager, not
Yep.
the candy beer that they're marketing all over the country.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a summer shanty guy. They're trying to push that. I want beer. I don't want candied beer. If that's kind of
No, I mean, I was introduced to it at a student journalism convention in La Crosse. Would have been my junior year, I guess. And I was just floored by how good it was.
yeah.
And I discovered that they didn't even sell the lager all over Wisconsin. I could only find it in one bar/package store a couple of blocks from my apartment. And all of a sudden, they get bought up by whoever they got bought up by, Miller or Inserv or whatever the hell conglomerate owns them now. All of a sudden, I'm seeing the Canoe everywhere in every bar in Massachusetts, but nobody sells the lager.
Yeah, great. Now, what
They sell the
did you...
Shandy and the Red and whatever the Christmas beer is.
Right.
I walk into a bar and I see that, that canoe-shaped tap that they have, and I get real excited. And then I look around and it's the Summer Shandy, and I get very disappointed.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. Now, did you spend some time in Milwaukee, go to Marquette? Did you ever have the pleasure of having Point beer, which is out of Stevens Point?
Point was a good product. When I started school there in 71. I lived there until 76. All the small breweries were still active. They hadn't been bought up by everybody yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed a good cold Point from now and then. Of course, the majors were still independent. So Miller, Schlitz, Pabst, Blast were all, independent operations. And I think their product was a lot better in that case.
Well,
my father was always a Miller guy. My father would play golf on Saturday with his friends and come home and sit down and have a cold Miller High Life.
And I love that.
He liked the idea of the clear bottle. He thought that was very stylish.
Oh, yeah, no, I love that tradition of the guys and I had a few in my family. They started drinking Bud. They're still drinking Bud. Their first car was a Chevrolet. They're still driving Chevrolets. I mean, that's the kind of America I love.
Yeah, first TV was a Motorola.
Yeah. Now, and what I loved about Point Beer, they had probably one of the finest quotes that said, "When you're on a point, you're out of town." So not only did it publicize the beer, but publicize the great town of Stevens Point, where I could say I played a couple of gigs over the years.
Did you play the university there?
Pardon me?
Did you play the university there?
Yeah, that is exactly where I played.
Yep.
We got a couple minutes.
Alma mater of Terry Porter, terrific basketball player for the Portland Trailblazers.
Fantastic.
UW Stevens Point. Yep.
We've got a couple of minutes left with Charlie Pierce. I'm always have such a great time chatting with him. Honored that he takes part in the Wall of Power Radio Hour. Do you think Trump is actually going to be able to run in 2024?
Do I think what?
Do you think Trump is actually going to be the nominee in 2024?
I think right now he's the favorite. I mean, you'd have to be out of your mind to make book on anything regarding that guy. But I don't see another candidate out there who can touch him.
Yeah.
He's got 30% of the Republican primary. He's got better than 50% of the Republican primary base locked up. And he still has it despite an absolute blizzard of legal trouble.
Yeah.
With more to come. So
you know what?
I'm going to have to see a lot more from, Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis and that bunch before I make him less than the favorite.
I'm actually all about please run Donald Trump. I mean, go for it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm rooting for his coronary arteries to, hang in there for at least another 8 months.
Charlie Pierce, what are you looking forward to doing this summer?
I'm gonna try to get in on some of these hot trials in Delaware and New York and Washington, and
Cool.
cover the legal travails of our former president. Otherwise, I'm going to hang around and enjoy the New England summer and heckle the Red Sox.
Well, and like I said, open invitation to come to the Twin Ports.
Maybe one day we can do the Hour of Power Checkpoint Charlie from the deck.
That would be a beautiful thing. And
Live from the deck. You mean blue?
I have one little tidbit I think you would enjoy. I found a great car guy in Superior, Wisconsin. He was a lifelong family. His dad had the car shop before him, so they've been in Superior, Wisconsin for years. And I was talking about my hometown, Virginia, Minnesota. Main Drag, Chestnut Street, had 22 bars when I graduated from high school in 1974. We used to call it the gauntlet. If you could get up one side and down the other, you were doing really well. And he said when he was in high school, he was about my age, he said they had 125 bars in Superior.
Well, that's what you get with a seaport, my friend.
Charlie Pierce, thank you so much. I look forward to
and you know me anytime.
Great.
Anytime, any place.
Have a
there.
great night. Talk to you soon.
You too, man.
Bye-bye.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
Thanks for listening to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. The show was produced by Paul Metza, engineered by Patrick Lilia. We'd like to thank our guest, Checkpoint Charlie Pierce. Always a pleasure having him on. My book, Alphabet Jazz, is for sale. You can get it at the Electric Fetus in Minneapolis. If you don't want to go out, order it from Amazon.com. Thanks for listening. And like my dad used to tell me, remember to be kind and make someone happy.